You believe it or not, I have made some mistakes in my life. It's way too much laughter. But I mean, I have made plenty of mistakes while driving in my life. I mean both. But today I'm talking about driving mistakes. When you take an exit that you weren't supposed to. Been there? And the husbands look to the wives, and the wives look to the husbands, and I got plenty of those stories. So one of them is when I'm on my way back from Ohio to Kentucky, through Kentucky, and there's this one place, I don't know why, and I don't even know where it is, but I know it's in Kentucky, one place where it catches me off guard every time, and for some reason, for whatever the reason is, I think it's my exit. Every time. And so I'll be driving, and Ashley has caught on that this, I think, is like a spot that I think is my exit for some reason, and she has started to tell me preemptively, this is not your exit, don't take this exit. Which, my thought is, okay, come on, like, I'm not going to take it this time, but I probably was. So, but I took it one time, and learned the hard way that there are no, first of all, emergency turnarounds for a long ways, and then there are no other exits to get off and turn around. So you can't turn around. It took me 14 miles down this road until I could finally turn around, and even then, it wasn't a legal turn. When you look at for the police, where I know if I make this emergency turnaround, that there's gonna be a police come around the hill and see me. We did it. We got back. We were fine. But I was really upset, right? Because you just wasted valuable time. And I like to make records out of getting home. Like, how fast can I do it, without, somewhat speeding? We don't have any cops in our congregation, do we? We had one. All right, well. So this exit gets me off guard. Have you ever been there where you take the wrong exit, or for some reason you think that's your exit and it catches you, or you mess up, whatever, you've taken the wrong exit? Well, that's one of my stories. I'll get to other times as well throughout this, but I think we can all relate, if you drive, to missing your exit or getting ready, being very close to missing your exit, where that's your exit and you were talking and not paying attention, and then good luck, and then just do one of those numbers and you hope that no one's to your right. Well, have you gotten off on the wrong exit in life? Have you done something, made a choice, saw something coming, made a choice, and it wasn't your exit? It wasn't what was best for you. Today we're going to be in Numbers. So if you have your Bibles, you can start turning there. We're going to be in Numbers, and we'll get there in just a second. But we're going to be talking about a story that where the Israelites missed their exit. God told them, this is it. It was clear, and they missed their exit. So we'll start in Numbers chapter 13. And we're going to start in verse 17. And we'll be skipping around a little bit. I think it's going to be on the screen to help you know where we are as well, but I'll try to also tell you where we are as we go through it. But we're going to go Numbers chapter 13. We're going to start in verse 17. Here it is. When Moses sent them to explore Canaan, he said, Go up through the Negev and on into the hill country. See what the land is like and whether the people who live there are strong or weak, few or many. What kind of land do they live in? Is it good or bad? What kind of towns do they live in? Are they unwalled or fortified? How is the soil? Is it fertile or poor? Are there trees in it or not? Do your best to bring back some of the fruit of the land. This was like an extra request. Hey, just bring back some of that fruit too, because it's season for fruit. So those ripe grapes. So they went up and explored the land from the desert of Zin as far as Rahab toward Lebo Hamath. They went up through the Negev and came to Hebron, where Ahiman and Sheshai and Talmai, the descendants of Anak, lived. We'll get to descendants of Anak. When they reached the valley of Eshcol, they cut off a branch bearing a single cluster of grapes. 2 of them carried it on a pole between them, along with some pomegranates and figs. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol because that's what it means, cluster of grapes that the Israelites cut off there. At the end of 40 days, they returned from exploring the land. Part of the significance of this is the 40 days as well, and we'll get there. But you would think that a people that spent time in Egypt as slaves would want nothing to do with that again, right? God brought them out of the land where they were slaves, and their only future there was death, laborious death, and work until then. And you would think that they would want nothing other than to get out of that. Think of your worst time in your life, and think about what you would take instead of that worst time, to have to go through that pain and that hurt ever again. I mean, there's a lot that you would take instead of going back to that time in your life. They spend 40 days deciding whether or not where they came from is worse or better than where God is taking them. It's incredible to me that it takes them 40 days to do this. And commentators think that they probably traveled around 160 to 200 miles. Moses tells them to take the Negev. The Negev are mountainous terrain area. It's not a good, it wouldn't be good trails to have to walk around. 160 to 200 miles, 40 days of traveling. And they're deciding, is this our best option? Is this what's good for us? Is this our exit? Is this what's best for me? Have you been in their shoes where maybe God has a plan for you? Maybe he's made it clear to you, maybe he hasn't, but he's got a plan for you and you still question it? And even though we might not want to admit it, I think we are there, we've been there, where God makes it clear we're supposed to be somewhere or go somewhere and our future is clear, and we still question that. Even if we're coming out of the hardest trial of our life and what's coming is better, we still question it. Ashley and I were traveling one day to Nashville, and we were on I-24. And to set the scene, my Raya at that point was 1.5 years old, did not travel well, screamed everywhere we went for the entirety of the trip. Did not like a car seat, wouldn't sleep. You'd think, oh yeah, they'll just go to sleep. I love the parents who come and say, my kid slept the whole time in the car seat. And I'm like, that's awesome. That never happened. Still doesn't happen, but I'm glad for you. So, didn't happen with Raya ever. She's getting better now. But at 1.5, she screamed everywhere we went. Well, we decided, I don't know why, but we decided to go to Nashville, that it was worth the screaming for an hour. And we were stuck in traffic for more than an hour. And we were trying to remember this, and Ashley thinks it was like we were around trying to navigate. We were in Clarksville for 45 minutes, trying to get out. We got stuck between exit 4 and 8. I think it was in the days when there was that mudslide. But there was also a wreck right before the mudslide, too. And so we got stuck in traffic at exit 4 and 8. We got on the exit at exit 1, and we're already in traffic. Well, first of all, my dad he travels about as well as Raya does. So he's already upset. He's driving. He also drove from Ohio to get to us, to see us, and he was in traffic in Cincinnati and then again in Louisville. So he didn't want to do this anyways already. So he's in a bad mood. I'm now in an upset mood. Dad's mad. This is going to fall on me, so I'm now upset. Raya's screaming in the back with Mom in the back and my wife in the back too. Full car. Miserable. We get behind traffic, and I decide I have a route in mind that I think is going to be better, so I think that we need to take the exit and get off the highway. Ashley thinks we need to take the exit and get off the highway as well, but her idea is a little different from mine. Well, I pulled the executive card and the veto card because I was in the front seat and it was my dad driving, and I went ahead and said we were going to go this direction, which was not the best decision. Still hear about it sometimes. We spent another hour more than what we needed to in traffic with a screaming baby, an upset dad. I think by the time we even got, I don't even remember what we did in Nashville when we got there because I think we were so upset. It costs us something when we miss our exit. It costs us something when we decide and it's not the best decision, or that change that we decided upon was not the best thing for us. In that story, the only thing worse than me deciding to get off on the exit and being stuck in traffic for longer with a screaming baby and an upset dad and no end in sight is the fact that I was the one that said we needed to go to that exit, and Ashley said something different that probably would have gotten us there sooner. So, have you experienced a time in your life when you missed your exit? You made a decision and it was the wrong one. The Israelites are fighting through this decision. Should we trust that God is going to deliver us from these people? Should we trust that even though he told our father Abraham that this is where we're going, that like we're in the right thing, we're doing the right thing, like this land is going to be ours, and it doesn't matter how big they are. Now let's read the next section here. They're fighting. Is this what's best for us? Is this our exit? Yes, I know we were slaves in the past, and I don't want to go back there, but is this what's right? I don't want to be slaves again, and I don't want to be killed either. So here we pick up in verse 26. They came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the desert of Paran, where they reported to them and to the whole assembly and showed them the fruit of the land. They gave Moses this account: we went into the land to which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit. But the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there. We'll get to it. The Amalekites live in the Negev, the Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live near the sea and along the Jordan. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, we should go up and take possession of this land, for certainly we can do it. My God is big enough, we can do it. But the men who had gone up with him said, we can't attack those people. They're so much stronger than we are. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, the land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there. Again, we'll get to it. We seem like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. So that night, all the members of the community, chapter 14, raised their voices and wept aloud. Now, these Nephilim, descendants of Anak, okay, this is crazy. There's a lot of things in the scripture that I don't understand. This is one of them. But this is awesome. These Nephilim go back to Genesis time, before the flood, and there's an account of a Nephilim in Deuteronomy that says there was a Nephilim that needed a 16-foot bed, iron bed. This is not a man I would want to mess with. And there's multiple in this land. And the descendants of Anak, these Nephilims are, again, I don't understand it, but they're like half angel, half human. And they're massive, tall people. They're people that I would definitely be scared of. But Caleb silences the people. We can do it. My God is big enough. He's big enough. I know, I believe in him. I know we can do it. But the rest of the people, the conversation typically goes like this. That way looks clear. We need to keep on the highway. Keep going on the highway. We're good. We'll be fine. It might be a little bit slow traffic, but we'll be fine. It'll be better than getting off on this exit. No. We need to get off on this exit. If we get off on this exit, I can see the brake lights ahead, just around the corner. We got to get off here, or we're going to be stuck behind traffic. No, I'm not doing that. These potholes and the twists and turns of this off-road, this old highway, we're not doing that. We'll never get there. Well, certainly the highway it'd be better than the highway because we'd be back to back, bumper to bumper for who knows how long. We can't get off once we pass this exit. Conversation continues until there's a decision that's made. Typically, we're a people of democracy, so we like voting. And the people in the hopefully, if you do what I didn't do, I just made the executive decision, and that was really dumb. But if you make a voting decision, you have everybody vote, and then you decide, okay, this is what's best for us, and we're going to go this route. Well, the Israelites, they come together. There's 12 of them that go into the land of Canaan, one leader for each tribe, and they go in and they check it out, and they spend 40 days there, 160 to 200 miles, trekking up, all the way back up north, all the way up through Canaan, and all the way back down. They come back and they send these reports. And they come up, it sounds like, with some kind of a vote. And they decide that it would be better for us to go back to Egypt. And here it is. So we read Numbers 14, 2 through 4. All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole assembly said to them, "If only we had died in Egypt or in this wilderness." God remembers what you say. God's going to remember what they said right there, or in this wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and our children will be taken as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to just go back to Egypt? And they said to each other, we should just choose a leader and go back. Is this our exit? Is this where we're supposed to go? Is God in this decision? Do we trust him? Do we trust that we can overtake these Nephilims? Yeah, they had a lot to have to overcome. A lot of people and a lot of things that they had to overthrow in order to inherit the land. And they see that they don't trust God enough that they're to the point where they're ready to go back to slavery. Let me say this. My wife is right a lot. Should have had her cover her ears first. My wife is right a lot, but she's not right all the time. I happen to know that I like being right, so sometimes I'm right, okay? Sometimes. But if my wife was right every single time we got in the car and took a trip, and I asked, hey, I don't know which way to go, and she said a certain way, and she was right, and every single time we took a trip, and I needed her help, if she was right every single time, I would have to believe that I would trust her. I would have to believe that I would believe her when she started saying that. Once I saw that progression and I saw that she's always right, I think I would be smart enough to know I need to listen to her every time. So the question here is then, what's God's track record with the Israelites? Because he continues to show them. We sang the song today, that second song. It's great. There are a million reasons to trust God, yet we continue to question it. We do this all the time. No one is ever right, but God always has what's best for us, and yet we question it. So as we continue reading Numbers, we're going to pick up in chapter 14, 6 through 11. After they said, we should have just died in the desert. In Egypt, it would have been better. Or, of course, in this wilderness, I said God will remember that. Wouldn't it just be better for us to go back to Egypt? And here we are in verse 6. Joshua and Caleb, who were among those who had explored the land, tore their clothes and said to the entire Israelite assembly, the land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into the land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and it will be given to us. But don't rebel against the Lord, and do not be afraid of the people of the land, because, yes, they're big, but we'll devour them. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them. The whole assembly got together, talked about stoning Moses, Aaron, Caleb, and Joshua. Then the glory of the Lord appeared at the tent of meeting to all the Israelites. The Lord said to Moses, "How long will these people treat me with contempt? How long will they refuse to believe in me?" God has done all these things, brought them out of slavery, done all these things. They've seen it. There are so many different accounts that I'm sure we don't even read about that God has done with these Israelites. Personal accounts of miracles that they've seen, things that they have seen personally. How long will these people treat me with contempt? How long will they refuse to believe in me? This is proof in this next passage that I'll read that God will sometimes let us choose the wrong exit. And here it is, Numbers 14, 26 through 29. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "How long will this wicked community grumble against me? I have heard the complaints of these grumbling Israelites. So tell them, as surely as I live, I will do the very thing that I heard you say. In this wilderness your bodies will fall." Down to verse 35, the end of verse 35. "They will meet their end in this wilderness. Here they will die." They've got great potential. God has given them this land. And if you know anything about geography of that area, it was a beautiful section of land. Perfect. And God promised it to them. God's been faithful. Any promise he's done, he hasn't gone back on. But every single one of the Israelites who said, "We can't do it. We are not going to be able to do this. These Nephilim are too big. The problem's too big. We can't do it." Every one of them will die and not see the promised land. But even in the midst of that, God is faithful, because God still sends their sons and daughters into the promised land. Because of Joshua and Caleb, Moses and Aaron, who said, "My God is big enough, we can do this, we can do it, we just can't question it. We got to go in, he's going to deliver us, we're going to do it. It's going to be okay." But they take their vote and they're wrong, and they decide, "We're not going to exit here. It'd be better for us to go back." For the time being, this story ends in death. For the Israelites, it costs them 40 years of wandering in a desert, the desert of Paran. They go back where they pretty much came from, where they're now reporting about this. They go back to that and they wander, nomads, with very little purpose. And they wander and wander for 40 years. 1 year per day that these 12 leaders went in and searched and looked and decided, is this our exit? Is this what's good for us? Is this where God is calling us? Every day that they did that, 40 days, we read, 40 days in Canaan, 40 years wandering. It seems like there is always an alternate route that's better than the one that we're on. And often what I find is when God is calling us somewhere, those alternate routes pop up. When God is calling us, making it clear, Satan's working ever hard to make sure that you're confused. So you might find yourself in a couple different places today. I see a couple different places that you might find yourself. The first one is maybe you missed the exit. You know that you missed it. It's back there. You know that you missed it. You're aware of it. Maybe you're not, but maybe you are. And it's back behind you. And the only way that you're going to get back to where God was calling you and the place where God told you to get off, the only way you're going to be able to get back there is what? If you turn around eventually. And you're continuously heading in the wrong direction. You're continuously heading in the direction away from where God is calling you. So your prayer, if you are if you've missed the exit, the prayer is for penitence. Penitence is recognition that you're wrong. Repentance is turning around. So the only way that it's possible for you to get back to the exit is to turn around somewhere. Penitence. Pray for penitence. Maybe you're approaching the exit. You know it's coming. You're aware that it's coming. God has somehow helped you to see that it's coming. You're approaching it. But do you know that when we drive and we get into our groove and there's other things that we're looking at out the windows, or we're listening to the radio, listening to a podcast, listening to our baby cry in the back, listening to our wife talk to us and talking back. As we do that, it's so easy, right, to just miss the exit even though we knew it was coming. So maybe your prayer, if you're approaching the exit, if God's given you the guidance to know that you're approaching the exit, your prayer then, I think, would be for protection. God, protect me from Satan causing any distractions that I could see and then get distracted and miss this exit. God, help me to see that. Give me protection. Keep me from being distracted. Maybe you're 400 miles till the exit. Every time I think of this, I think of Kansas and Oklahoma and Texas and Nebraska. Miserable states to drive through, right? Oh. Because you get there and you see, okay, the state line, and if you're like me, you want to, I count down, not by mile marker, because that would be miserable, but I count down, okay, if I can, it's 400 miles till there, 300 miles, and I'll be in this city, and then, and I get excited, and I get excited about that, and then, okay, from this city to next city, I can get there, I can do it. And you break it down, right? Well, Russ told me today, I said it was 400 and something miles. He said 424.2. I think he's done it too many times. From Missouri line to Colorado line. And it's terrible. You just don't think you can get there. Colorado will never come. There's just no way. You just got to keep driving. Keep trucking down the road. You don't see the exit in sight. You don't know where it is. You don't know when it's going to come, but you know it's a long ways off. Keep moving. Keep trusting God. And for that prayer, I would say you need patience. Have patience that you'll get there. Have patience that God knows what He's doing. Maybe you're on the exit. You're on the exit. You need to know what's next. You just got off the exit and you just don't know what the next step is, because that's sometimes how God works. You're following His guidance, but you don't know what's next. You don't know where He's even taking you. You don't know where you're going. You don't know where you're heading, but you got off on the exit. Your prayer should be for peace. God, give me peace in the midst of, I know that I'm doing your will. I know that I'm going where you're calling me and where I'm supposed to be. But give me peace that I'm going to be okay and that we're going to get through it together. So you missed your exit, penitence. You're approaching the exit, protection. You're 400 miles from the exit. You're a long ways off. You need patience. And you're on your exit. You need peace. As you know, most of you, this will be my last sermon here at Grace, which is crazy and sad, but last sermon here at Grace, and this has been a long, it's not my last Sunday, it's my last sermon, but it's been a long road of prayer and of the interview, and then wait until the congregational vote. It's a long process, and so it's been a while. But Ashley, and now that we know that we're going to Galion, I think where I am today is we're on the exit. That's where I find myself, and I'm going to ask you to find yourself. Where are you? Ask God to show you where you are. For me, I'm on the exit, and I'm praying for peace, which sometimes is really difficult, right? In the beginning of this process, it was really hard for me. So where do you find yourself today? I trust that if you ask God, He will show you. I also trust that if you ask Him, I hope that you will put your faith in Him and let Him guide you. And my last thought is this. We want all of all of our directions outlined, right, in a bullet point font from 1 to 25. We want to know what's coming after the next step. We want to know what's step 3 when we're on step 1. We want to know that. That's, if you're like me in life, that's just, I want to know every bit of it. I want to know, God, if you're calling me this direction, okay, that's fine, but like, what about after that? If I do this, and this will happen, but what do I do after that? Like, where am I going? Show me the end result. Show me the final step. GPSs have the ability, you know this, on your phone or wherever, any GPS, you can go to the overview and you can see every single step. But when you do that, how many of you would get totally lost if you were to try to actually take those steps, read them, and then go 500 miles across the country to figure out where you're going to end up? I mean, not very many of us would be able to actually get from point A to point B in a long distance, sometimes even short distance, by looking at the overview. And so I trust that God knows what he's doing. And it's kind of like, I stole this from someone, from another preacher, but it's kind of like the God positioning system. He knows what we need. He knows that we can't do all of the instructions at once, but he does know that if he just tells us the first next thing, will we be faithful in that first next thing? And then step 2 will come when we get there. We want to see it all at the same time, but, honestly, I don't think I would be able to, I would get lost. And I would lose my trust and my faith if I saw the final step. So I ask that God just does what he knows he knows better. He knows better than I do. God, show me, just let me have the faith to do the next step. As the band comes back up, I'm going to pray for us. But I would ask today that you just open yourself up and ask with the prayer of, God, where am I in this journey? We are never done. So if we're never done, we're always on the highway of life. And if we're on the highway of life, there's always an exit. That exit might be a long ways away. You may have just taken it. Whatever the exit is, I ask that you would just pray, God, where am I? Where are you in my process? Because if you don't pray and you don't ask, you might have missed the exit. And you'll never know unless you wrap your head around where God is taking you. And then have faith to follow him anywhere, as we sang about. Let me pray.